Hello and welcome back, and that's right, today we want to talk about physical remote KVMs. We've talked about loads on the channel. Indeed, in the last few years, the range and popularity of these devices has exploded. The idea that if you are an IT working professional and you've got to provide remote support, or you want to access your PC in your home, your study, your office remotely while you're out and about, and you want to do it in the most convenient, failover safe way possible, physical KVMs have become particularly appealing, and although several brands have started rolling out their products, I think it would be pretty fair to say that no one has really attacked the subject more in 2024, 5 and 6 than GL.iNet. And that's what today's video is about. It's a buyer's guide, but I'm also going to be recommending which one of their range of KVMs best suits your needs. Now, before we get into the nuts and bolts of today's video, we've got to talk about today's sponsor, who isn't GL.iNet. Surprising, right? These are just products I've reviewed. Today's sponsor is AliExpress. They've sponsored videos here on the channel before, and all of the products I'm going to talk about today are readily available right now over on AliExpress via a different number of sellers, alongside discount codes available to use right now. Also, AliExpress is once again running its summer sale, giving you up to 80% off of thousands of products, be they for those that you're going to enjoy on your summer holiday, or if you're thinking of staying at home and using that budget to upgrade everything from your KVM to your network attached storage to any PC accessory. Now is a great time to get these things up to 80% off, as well as utilizing the codes on screen or in the description to enjoy extra savings. And finally, AliExpress is still running its Team Cashback program, providing you up to 10% cashback on any of the participating products you choose to buy. You just have to sign into the mobile application, browse the supported products, and the orders that you place will result in increased team points. And the more team points there are, the more cashbacks you and others get to enjoy. There's a link in the description to allow you to join my team today, or you can go ahead and just scan the QR barcode on screen. Thanks again to AliExpress for sponsoring today's video, and let's crack on and start talking about some KVMs. Now, a lot of users, when they hear about physical KVMs like this, will automatically reply and say, wait, I've just been using TeamViewer for the last 10 years. Why on earth would I choose to use one of those? Why am I spending money for something I can just do anyway? And it's a valid point. Remote KVMs, long before they were physical, there's been loads of software equivalents. In fact, hell, built into Windows is a remote desktop application. Why would you go out of your way to spend more money on these? Well, there's several reasons I would argue. Number one, if you are accessing a remote PC, the amount of responsibility that the operating system you're accessing has in terms of the smoothness of your pathway is massive. It could be that the operating systems, let's say Windows for this example, does not allow external connections easily. The security settings are set up too high, and even though something like TeamViewer has the allowance and the password that's been passed over to the end user, it still won't let them in. That's something when you're in the operating system, which is a constant problem for remote access. But it doesn't stop there. The software itself, again, we'll just say TeamViewer for the hell of it, that software may need updates. If that software version differs to the remotely accessing user's machine, so again, you've got your support user here, and then you've got your target, your victim, your client that you're trying to help, there could be a software inconsistency where it won't allow it. And this also goes down the road, by the way, of adding additional authentication, or on the fly when you need to, having to remotely access it, and then that the user has to then do two-factor authentication via the connected email. There are so many barriers. And when it comes to remote access, the majority of the time you're using devices for remotely accessing a PC or Mac or whatever system, you're not doing it for fun. You're doing it for troubleshooting. You are doing it for maintenance. You are doing it because there's a problem. And therefore, there is the potential. Every one of these hurdles is making it harder and worse. And that's before we get into if you can't even get into the operating system in the first place. Say the problem with the PC is at the BIOS level. Software won't let you get in there. Now, you can get around that with things like Intel vPro, which allows for remote access to BIOS, but that still doesn't allow you to do physical reboots. It doesn't allow you to get around a lot of the native stuff there. Yes, getting to BIOS is still possible with certain motherboards with support of vPro and others, but still, a physical KVM running outside of that system allows for a greater degree of control and access. And this is before we even get into, and I'm speaking to you who works in IT, that I know will have a similar vibe to this, what about when you're speaking to someone and allowing them and hoping they can set up remote access for you, and they have the technological nous of a ham sandwich. No, go to the start menu. It's at the bottom. It's the one that looks like little windows. Yeah, that is actually why they call it Windows. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Go to the app. Okay. So you're running Windows 11. Okay. So start typing Team Viewer. No, one word. One word. It's one word. Yep. Yep. No, that's you. I'm not in it yet. You've got to do that. Okay, yeah. No, the password. You've got to decide the password. Yes, I know it's recommending a password, but you've got to put a password. You've got to enter. Or whatever you want to put in there, you enter it in there. Okay. Yep, password's fine. Just put okay, yeah. So I'm going to try and access it now. And no, I'm not in it yet. I'm not in it. Okay. No, stay at the computer. I need you to stay at the computer for a little while. Oh, forget it. I'm sorry if I triggered any of the IT veterans there, but it's true. When you're trying to remote access via the software level, the reliance you have on the person on the other end can make or break the support that you can provide. Hence why physical KVMs are just a good way to get around that. Next up, let's talk about the key features of a KVM, because again, I mentioned GL.iNet's wider range of KVMs, but they're not all the same, and for good reason. You need the right tool for the right job. And before we get onto different KVMs that I recommend, these are the key features you need to look for depending on your needs. The first one is HDMI. You would be amazed how important it is in terms of just general organic utilization and deployment, and HDMI is. The majority, and by the majority I really do mean all, arrive with an HDMI port there. That HDMI port there is what the system is going into, and what that means is that is the visual output that is being projected over the network, over the internet, whatever. However, that means, in some cases, that when you need the user, or even yourself, to set that up, you've got to open a drawer, pull the KVM out, get it connected, get it set up, run the updates, and then you get it done. And that can be problematic. And if you want to go for a KVM that's always there, you're going to have pass-through from the client machine all the way through to the monitor that's being used. Just silent background KVM safety net when it's needed. And that's why you go for ones that have got dual HDMI, or HDMI in and out. That extends, by the way, to some KVMs that have audio in and out. They are KVMs that allow you to hear what's being said, but you can also project audio to the target machine there, which can be really helpful for support in terms of a dialogue back and forth. Next up, PoE, because these devices need power. And yes, you can connect them to the system. You can connect them to a USB port that's actually being accessed, and the power will be supplied, because the majority of KVM devices are actually quite low power. However, if that system is broken, or if it reboots, that means the KVM reboots. And in the case of servers, in the case of headless designed devices, you generally find the best thing you want to do is use a PoE adapter, because this is powered via the same port that is supplying the network connectivity there. Some KVMs arrive with PoE adapters and splitters. They retail for about 20 to 30 NICA. But at the very least, if you do have a client system or a server that is close to a PoE switch, I do recommend using Power over Ethernet KVMs for things to be a lot more seamless in terms of reboots and just sustained support. Next up, you may have noticed some KVMs arrive with USB ports there. Now, there's the USB power, of course, but a lot of them, particularly GL.iNet ones, that USB is not for adding additional storage. That USB port is designed for accessories, and the most common accessories come down to these two: an ATX power board and the Fingerbot. Don't laugh, that's a thing. These are physical devices, let's take the Fingerbot for example, that will allow you remotely to connect to the KVM, and then from there press a button, and then this will press a power button physically. It sticks adhesively, I've got a terrible bit of paper there, onto the device, and allows you to remote access that button and physically press a button. The ATX power board does a similar thing, but with the PSU on a desktop system rather than relying on pressing a physical power button. And again, depending on the configuration and the setup, that may be very appealing. Again, all of these features differ from unit to unit, so figure out which of these features best suits your needs. By the way, there is one that has all of these features. Next up, storage, because different KVMs arrive with different architectures in terms of storage. Now, when you were using things like TeamViewer, there is actually ability to file transfer, kind of a file bucket that files could go in and out of. It was very FTP, very Billy basic. The storage I'm talking about here is twofold. Number one, to provide that level of file transmission. Depending on different KVMs, the amount of base level storage it arrives with will differ. And the things you can use that for is ultimately if you need to send a driver update, a firmware fix, something between your system and the one you are connecting to, that storage can be used as a middle ground between the two of them. But the most obvious, arguably, and the most useful means to use that storage is to utilize it for ISOs, VMKs, VDKs, system images. These are ones that you're going to be using to reboot a system, for repair disks, for full installations. These are a good area of storage to store all of those ISOs for when you need them on the KVM, particularly if you're running a KVM that's going to be accessing multiple devices as well. Finally, it's worth talking about the screens, because this one, as mentioned, is just a big metal PoE box, whereas these have got screens. These screens allow you not only to utilize the device as you would any KVM with HDMI in and out, the storage as mentioned, and some of them, by the way, do arrive with SD card upgrade slots, but it also allows you to see the IP, to create a passcode, to add another layer of security, and in some cases allow you to display the HDMI via that screen. It's going to be very small and there's not much you can do, but at the very least it will allow you to know, one, when your system is being KVM accessed and allow an additional security layer, but also on top of that to allow you to connect to a PC that you're testing if you don't have a monitor to hand. Because remember, these have full KVM control. So in my case, when I'm testing NAS devices or testing mini PCs, I've got the mini PC and then I just connect a KVM. No need to connect a keyboard and a mouse. No need to do connecting a monitor. I just connect the KVM and then use my test machine to run all of the tests remotely. And then I can use this screen, if I can't get in for one reason or another, to see what the HDMI output is actually displaying. It's a lovely little feature. So now you're better informed about the key buying points of the KVM that you're going to need for your setup. But let's talk about specific KVMs from GL.iNet. Now, the most basic entry level is actually two different devices, and that's just a standard Comet. The standard Comet arrives in a normal USB powered version and that PoE version I showed you earlier on. This device arriving between $99 for the standard class model and $115 for the PoE model. These are designed for ad hoc utilization. In the case of the server one, you can leave that running for a period of time in the background. It's got 8 gig of storage. It only has HDMI in, so no HDMI out, but it does support those USB peripherals to control for reboots and more. It's the most basic entry-level model, and arguably it's not their best, but it's certainly ticking the basic boxes, particularly if you are someone running multiple servers that you don't want to connect to monitor, but you want to be able to manage them. It's quite a useful little device to have. And again, PoE if you need it, or you can go for the standard class one and get a PoE splitter. At least you've got that flexibility, and it kind of works out all the same price-wise anyway. Next up is the Pro model. The Comet Pro not only arrives with the front-mounted LCD for that real-time information and control and security layering, but it also has HDMI in and out. It doesn't have the PoE support, but it does allow you to have the system set up and in the background running all the time, and then add those security protocols, or at least use the display to know if someone authorized or otherwise is accessing your machine. It also arrives with Wi-Fi 6 support, which means you're not only relying on a physical network, you can set this up with Wi-Fi connectivity and run them both simultaneously, allowing you to scroll between both of the different IPs, giving you 2 doorways to get into it on the local area network there. And again, all of these allow you to connect them with the likes of Zero Tier or Tower Scale, or use GL.iNet's own good cloud service to access the KVM remotely at any time. It's got a greater degree of storage at 32 gigabytes and more RAM as well. This is a better solution overall to get the job done. It just lacks PoE, so keep that in mind. Which brings us to the Comet 5G, the ultimate failover model. This has everything that the Comet Pro has, but it scales up the hardware architecture a little bit. It also arrives, again, HDMI in and out, visual display, but a better, clearer display that's larger as well. It also arrives with the same level of storage inside and that Wi-Fi connectivity, but it also has audio in and out for the two-way comms on there, but it also features a 5G SIM card slot. That's what I mean about ultimate failover. You can even set this up as its own AP, which is pretty impressive to have it as an access point there locally to really corner off the access, but also allow for a great degree of access overall. But keep in mind, all that additional hardware is going to cost you. Notwithstanding you've got the external antennae, notwithstanding the 64 gig of storage, notwithstanding the 5G support there on the side, just a general scale up of the abilities of the device, this rocks out right now at $299. It is the all-encompassing do-it-all version, but when you compare this to the $179 price tag of this, coming up on almost double the price, just keep that in mind that you are paying extra for that. And unless you think you're going to use the extra features, this is probably the best middle ground device of the lot. Finally, let's talk about a wacky and weird KVM that is currently still in development. And this is the Comet Q. You can remove that rubber casing there, but that is available with it. This is a very unusual KVM that I would argue, I can't say it's better or worse than any of the KVMs today. It's just too different. Own inbuilt USB cable there. We've already done a preview video on this. I believe this is coming to Kickstarter very, very soon. This is a KVM that runs off the same USB port that you're connecting to with the keyboard, video and mouse as well. It requires a device that has USB-C video output, but that can extend to a mobile phone. That can extend to a MacBook. It can extend to devices where you carry the KVM in your bag, whether it is you're helping a client or helping yourself, one way or another, you just go ahead, you connect it, and you let the device do its thing. It's got storage, it's got the inbuilt software, it's got the passkey system, it's got all of the Wi-Fi connectivity. It even has USB pass-through on the rear to allow power to pass through the device. No mention if that can be used for accessories. The bottom line is, although it's not really one I'm including in the list formally, I do think it's a KVM that people should be aware of, because although it is a quirky little turkey, this is a really interesting idea and just another example of GL.iNet's range of KVMs to suit different needs. But there you go, that has been a buyer's guide to KVMs in 2026. Thanks again for AliExpress for sponsoring this video. Below you'll find links to individual GL.iNet products, and again we've done a whole article as well breaking down a little bit more about the individual specifications and also the suitability of different KVMs for different setups and needs. So do check that out. But apart from that, thank you so much for watching and I'll see you next time.